Hello guys, I got a quick one today. I'm not feeling very well nowadays, so I'm just gonna do a quick video. I have this 2008 Acadia. This is the one that I was changing the PCV valve on it, and just like yesterday it started to misfire, and I already got my it actually has the random misfire code. So let's just look at the misfire counter, and we have a constant misfire on the cylinder number 3. I can feel the misfire. I do not like the way this car cranks, so let's just do a quick crank test. I'm just gonna get my foot all the way down to the pedal, and you can hear the cranking is not looking good at all. Doesn't sound good at all. Just gonna use a picoscope and do a quick relative compression test, and then we will go from there. The nice thing about the picoscope, there is a software that we can do a relative compression test. This is non-sync test. Basically, it's not gonna tell me what cylinder is having a low compression. It's just telling that a cylinder has a low compression simply by going to this picoscope pico diagnostic, and once you open up that software, go to compression test, and it's going to open us this compression test. I'm going to go to a cylinder number 6 cylinders. See, it's not doing something. I got to do this again. Let's see. I don't know why it's not okay. I think because I have this one open. Gotta close my Pico 6 software. So on this one, basically all we need is just leads, and we're gonna put those leads on a battery. Now we can actually press the start. So we're gonna choose a 6 cylinder, and all I have is just the lead connected to the battery, positive and the ground, and Pico's gonna look at the voltage drop across the battery as we crank the engine over, and it's going to give us a graph, like a bar actually, waveform. And okay, I did press start on my Pico, and I'm just going to use a clear flood mode. I'm going to press my accelerator all the way down to the floor. I'm going to crank the engine over, and when you can clearly hear it, it's very low compression. Okay. Now we can see that one cylinder has no compression at all. Again, it doesn't tell me what cylinder has low compression. This is just a quick test we can do to verify, to give us a direction what to do next. And so now I do know that have a pretty much zero compression. I would assume it's a number 3, and since I have a misfire on it, next test I'm gonna do, I will use my first look sensor, and we're gonna look at the intake pulses from the intake, and they should be nice and uniform if all the valves are opening and closing, and if the compression, since to see if you have any problems on is it the upper or is it the lower. Do we have a problem with the compression, or is it a problem on the in a head? Okay, so next I will, as I said, I'm going to use my first look sensor. I'm going to change on my, I'm going out of this test. I'm going to, on the picoscope, I'm going to change it to go back to Picoscope 6 automotive software. I'm going to use the 2 channels. On one channel I'm going to have my first look sensor. I will use this port here to access my intake. I'm going to use this port. This is from a PCV system. And I'm going to install my first look sensor. I'm going to use 2 channels so I can have a sync. I'm going to use my ignition probe. I'm just going to put one on top of the coil. It doesn't matter which one it is. I'm going to use the Pico ignition probe. I'm just going to lay that on a, it will be number 6 cylinder, the 2, 4 and 6, and 1, 3 and 5. And I was really hoping this is just a simple bad coil, but this is not the case. On this car, I believe the engine cylinder head was replaced maybe last year or something. I think the chain had jumped and trashed that head, and that was replaced, and it was running fine for a year. I'm not sure what happened. Sorry guys, I'm not thinking clearly nowadays. I'm having some health problems, so I'm trying to show you guys how to use a first look sensor. I'm going to put a first look sensor on channel number 2. That is going to be our red channel. On my ignition, I'm going to put on the channel A. I'm going to this is just the ground for my, this is actually new Pico probe. It's actually nice, I like it a lot. It's I can actually bend it. I used to have the old one, the orange one. This one is really, really nice. The other one works as well, but I like this one better because I can really nicely position this on my coil. Okay, and now we will set the scope. Let's go ahead and so let's channel A is going to be my ignition, so I'm just going to put maybe, I don't know, 500 millivolts, and I'm going to use the trigger on the channel A. So you can the trigger, and then on channel B there's going to be a first look sensor. I can, I don't know, maybe 2 volts. I can do AC. DC doesn't really matter. And 5 milliseconds, I'm going to go a little more, maybe 20, 30 milliseconds. And let's just start it up, and we can play with a scale once we start the car. Okay, now here's my sync. So on number 6, and this is again it's on number 6, and this is the 720 degrees of crankshaft rotation. So now all the pulses is going to be here, and I should have nice even 6 pulses from 6 cylinders. And you can see you have this huge pump here. I'm going to lower the voltage down a little bit so you can see it better. Right there. So we got 1, 2, 3, so 4 and 5 is actually missing. The 2 humps are kind of missing. We got this huge hump here that indicates that something is wrong with the valves. And now we can change. We can see that clearly that something is going on with. I'm not sure. Most likely it's intake valve. It's not closing right. Unfortunately, I'm not going to do anything else to it. I was here just to, they brought the car just to see what's going on. Again, I was hoping it's going to be spark plugs or coil or something simple like that, but this is more, you know, it's unfortunately a mechanical problem. But with the first look sensor, we can easily identify problem with the valves. Now, this being such a severe problem, we can use a vacuum gauge. And you can see how much weight is bouncing. Okay. Not sure how you guys can see this, but clearly with the vacuum gauge is bouncing, which is not what we want to see, and the vacuum is very low, somewhere like 13, 14 inches. This we're going to do next. I have a first look sensor in my intake again. I have map sensor also. This is a crosser map, just regular crosser map sensor. I'm going to have that in intake as well. I've removed number 3 spark plug out of cylinder number 3. Now we're going to have a 3-channel. We're going to have now all this. I have my map sensor hooked up to 5-volt regulator. I have a pressure transducer, 300 psi pressure transducer hooked up to another 5-volt regulator. And on channel A, we're going to have a pressure transducer. On channel B, we're going to have a first look sensor. On channel D, we're going to have a map sensor. We're going to do a cranking compression first. I'm going to analyze the waveform, and then I'm going to do a running compression test. Okay, the clear flood mode didn't work right away. I'm not sure why. That's okay. We'll go back now and analyze this waveform. It's the first one, and then I'm going to go here. Okay. This is my first look sensor. The red trace, the green trace is a map sensor. We don't see much activity on the map sensor at all. On the first look sensor we see something, but it's pretty noisy. Now the cranking compression, we got it here, and let's just measure the peak compression. It's 9.6 psi. We go down to a exhaust stroke. We're pretty much at 0, and then the vacuum, we are at minus 12 psi, which is like 24 inches of mercury, which is actually a pretty significant vacuum for the cranking. Okay, now we look the first look sensor. We can pull this down a little bit, just a little bit more. Okay. Might have a little bit too much of a filter. Okay. Now, when the first look sensor, we should have 6 equal humps for every cylinder. Between 720 degrees of crankshaft rotation between these two compression peaks, there should be 6 equal humps. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they are really scattered all over the place. However, what I do see here, right when the intake valve is opening, we are actually missing one hump right in here. You can see right in this area when the intake valves are opening and the exhaust valve is closing, we're having this anomaly here. And of course, very low compression and but excessive vacuum. So what I believe is happening here is restriction on the intake valve. Now this car has 2 intake valves. I'm not 100% sure, how the whether both valves are affected, or maybe one, or is it maybe, I don't know, is it maybe a carbon deposits, or or maybe rocker rounds that fell off of one valve. But anyway, we definitely see now when we scroll back a little bit, so we got it here, we got it here. It repeats itself every time. So it's pretty much the same every single time. We're missing one hump on this waveform, but it's always at the time when the intake valve is opening on this cylinder. Here. Okay. Next we're going to do a running test and see waveform. Just wanted to idle to stabilize, and let's stop this now. And you can see this is where we started the truck. Now on the MEP sensor, I don't have a custom probe on a MEP sensor. Basically all I'm looking at is the voltage. What I can see now is, we started around like here, like, I don't know, 4 or something, 4.4 volts, and as the vacuum, when you start the car and get a vacuum in the intake, the voltage dropped down. So now I know that the low voltage on my MEP sensor is actually low vacuum, and high voltage is high, and the low voltage is more vacuum, and high voltage is less vacuum. Now here you could see that we have a around 9.3 psi, and then this peak compression here was around 14 psi, and then after that pretty much went down to 0. Okay, so now we can see that the compression, the exhaust and the compression stroke are pretty much the same level, pretty much at the 0. Okay, now let's go to this one. We have actually clear. Now we can actually see that something is actually happening with the MEP sensor as well. On the cranking we didn't see that, but because of the throttle body was open, we didn't have a vacuum in it. But now when we started the engine, we can see there's a something happening with the MEP sensor. Also, we can see that on our first look sensor. Take the cursor and light up. Now I know that my, as we know now that my voltage here like 2.5 volts, and then goes down to a 2.9 volts. So this tells me here that I am losing vacuum right when my intake valve is opening. With a first look sensor sometimes can be a little tricky to figure out, if it's a positive pressure, it's a negative pressure, because basically it looks at the differential in the pressure. But having a MEP sensor, now we know for sure that having this pump here means that we are losing a vacuum. We're not pulling the air into the cylinder. Something is blocking air, and because of I believe it's because of a intake valve. Now, as I said, this engine has 2 valves. As the piston goes down, and it's not drawing any air into the cylinder, now we have excessive vacuum buildup, which is around minus 20 psi, which is like a 40 inches of vacuum, which is way too much. And the reason is we're not drawing anything into the cylinder for some reason. And since we don't put anything in a cylinder, once we open up the exhaust valve, you know, we can see here that this is a plateau when exhaust valve is open, equalizes the pressure, and then the piston goes down again, and we're, you know, creating negative pressure inside the cylinder. However, you know, discrepancy here is that we are creating huge negative pressure inside the cylinder, but actually inside the intake manifold we are losing vacuum. So somewhere between here and here is the restriction, in my opinion. And of course, seeing this on this huge hump on the first look sensor indicates the same thing. And so this will be the end of the first part, and then the second part too. I'm going to remove the intake and valve cover and see what is going on. I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think? What the problem could be? But to me, this is indication they are, you know, they're no. Now, if you would have a stuck closed exhaust valve, we would pretty much have the same peak. It would be same as a compression stroke. It would be the same peak like this, but we would have some kind of compression. We would pull something into the cylinder and compress it twice, basically, because we would not be able to push it out. And so that's not the case. We can see that you know, how long the exhaust valve is opening. It's like I don't know, 8.5 milliseconds. Now I can put the cursors, but I don't think it's gonna help me much at all in this case. So this seems like that exhaust valve here, it's a little bit actually retarded, but I don't know, it's okay, I believe. So at this point I'll have to remove the cover and see what is going on here. I had a similar case before. Back in January I had that I think it was a Chevy Silverado with an active fuel management system, where we were actually, one of the lifters on the intake valve would collapse, and we pretty much had the same situation where there would be a zero compression, and we had actually the same hump on the first look sensor. Might be able to find that. Let's see. It's running at full sensor. This is a similar situation, but on this engine it confuses me a little bit that since it has two intake valves, how is it possible that both valves are not working? So usually that filter. Okay. On this engine we had like 130, and then 86 and 60, and then went down pretty much to zero. And so everything that engine was kind of weird, because that lifter would not collapse right away. It would collapse after a couple of revolutions, and then it would pretty much completely shut the intake valve, and there would be no more air drawn into the engine, into that cylinder. So we pretty much have the same scenario on this Acadia as well. So if I pick this up, we can see that this is a first look sensor, and we have the same situation. It's too much. Where when the intake valve opens, we have this loss of vacuum, and then we have this huge hump on the first look sensor. It lines up with the opening of the intake. Okay, I think that will conclude part 1. I'm gonna get the part 2. I'm gonna start tearing this apart and see what we can figure out. I would really appreciate you guys your thoughts over this, and we'll figure this out in part 2. All right. Thank you all so much, and see you in part 2.